Keir Starmer has resigned as Prime Minister. A lot would say finally, right? Because we have been seeing reports for months that the members of the Labour Party really doing all they can to get Keir Starmer to resign, and Keir Starmer was just not budging. He was saying, "I want to stay, I want to stay." But the reality is that in UK politics, you know, people often say, "Well, we haven't had a resignation in US politics since Richard Nixon." UK politics is very different, right? It kind of like, it's inevitable, really. I mean, Sunak was actually quite, it was a rarity that he didn't have to resign. He called the general election and he went in grace, I guess you could say. Keir Starmer has went in disgrace, right? I mean, that's the reality of things. It's not looking good for him and his, I guess you could describe, legacy. There was no legacy whatsoever. So let's talk about what actually happened, and we'll actually go over who Keir Starmer really was. Monday morning, 9 a.m., Keir Starmer holds a press conference, and we'd already saw reports going into the week, even by President Donald Trump, saying that Keir Starmer's going to resign. So I think everyone was aware this was going to happen, but we had also had reports a few months back that he was going to do the same, and nothing really transpired. So, you know, we didn't really know what was true until it actually happened. But the funny thing is that Trump confirmed that Starmer was resigning before Starmer confirmed that he was resigning, which is quite humorous, I must say. But yeah, he gets up there on his during his press conference, and essentially he has this long-winded speech, and by the end of it, I don't know, they're saying that he got emotional. I'm sorry to say, I mean, emotional Keir Starmer, he's been horrendous for the country in terms of what he sort of represents across the globe. When he goes to these summits, when he goes to these events, I mean, he's so, like, body language wise, he's so weak and just really stale. I'm sorry to say, like, even with a leader like Trump, I mean, Trump's not great, but at least, like, he has a bit of star power. I mean, Starmer, not that guy whatsoever. But even if he isn't that guy, he isn't a charismatic individual, you know, perhaps he would have good policy, and the policy was not there either. Who really was Keir Starmer? Keir Starmer was not a friend of ours. I know he tried to claim and tried to essentially sort of pretend in some sorts that he was, but the reality is that he wasn't. I mean, I don't know if any of you remember, straight after October the 7th, Keir Starmer was on LBC with Nick Griffin, and Nick Griffin essentially asked him, "What do you think about Yoav Gallant's statement?" Yoav Gallant, the former defense minister in Israel. What do you think about his statement? Not the fact that he called the Gazans human animals, but the fact that he said that we're not going to allow food in, we're not going to allow electricity in, we're not going to allow water in, right? We're not going to allow any of this, and it's going to be a siege, essentially. And Keir Starmer said that they have that right, right? Nick Griffin said, you know, do they have that right? Keir Starmer said they have that right, okay? So, I mean, this, I'm sorry to say, he has been no friend of ours. He's actually been a friend of Israel, right? He's been a part of the Friends of Israel in the UK. So, yeah, I mean, he was a barrister, I believe, before he was Prime Minister, but he was no friend of ours. His policy, quite frankly, wasn't great whatsoever. So, I mean, this is the problem, right? This is the problem. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. And this is precisely the definition of that statement, is Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer tried to please everyone. He tried to throw in, you know, slightly right-wing sentiment, even in his resignation speech, when he talks about these asylum hotels and immigration and getting net immigration down, or net migration down. So he even alluded to this, but then he also tries to talk about, you know, left-wing policies too. And this is the problem. You have to pick a side, my friend. He's in a Labour Party. He's in a left-wing party. He moved it, you know, to the right. So the left-wing people aren't going to like him. The left-wing advocates aren't going to like him. And the advocates for the right-wing are obviously, I mean, we saw the rallies, right? And what are they calling Starmer? I think we all know the answer to that question. But he tried to please everyone. He ended up pleasing no one, and he resigned in disgrace. But he has resigned now. He is still formally Prime Minister until, I believe, the end of July. I mean, this is natural. This is kind of what happens. We've saw this before. Because what's going to happen, we'd love to see a general election called. I mean, that would be the ideal scenario. But the reality is that that's not going to happen. What's going to happen here is, I mean, it's already essentially been confirmed. The party is rallying behind Andy Burnham. As we discussed last week, Andy Burnham won in Markerfield, and now he is an MP to the constituents of Markerfield. He was sworn in on Monday, the same day that Starmer resigned, and he's the only person at this moment in time who has put himself forward to be leader of the Labour Party and thus Prime Minister of the country. So he has no competition as it stands, and if that remains, then he will most certainly become Prime Minister of the UK. So it's pretty certain now. I think people have been floating names like Ed Miliband, even Wes Streeting. They were floating his name around, saying that potentially there could be a leadership contest between Andy Burnham, between maybe even Ed Miliband, maybe Wes Streeting. Wes Streeting went and backed Andy Burnham, so it essentially takes his name out of the conversation. Ed Miliband, I mean, he's already been leader of the Labour Party, so that's just not going to happen. I mean, it can happen, but it's just unlikely. So what are we going to see here? What's the future of the country? I'd love to say that, I mean, I would have rather Starmer called a general election and resigned. I think that would have been better. But I think he still, has loyalty to the party. And he has a lot of people in the party that he has to please, even if he's not leader of the party or Prime Minister of the country. What do we see going forward? It's almost certain that Andy Burnham will become Prime Minister towards the end of July. I think it perhaps will be the 17th of July, I read, when he becomes leader of the Labour Party, and then he will be sworn in as Prime Minister. He'll be confirmed by the King on the 20th of July, which I believe is a Monday. So very, big things happening here in the UK, and I'd love to say, this is going to result in a net positive for the country, but the reality here is that, I mean, this is why I prefer to speak about international politics, is because it's dreadful here in the UK in terms of what's actually going on. I mean, there's no change. This is the problem. Keir Starmer runs on change. That is his slogan. Like our slogan is Islam first. He runs on change. And what does he do? He does nothing, I'm sorry to say. Now we have Andy Burnham. What is he running on? What is Andy Burnham running on? He's running on the exact same slogan. He's saying we need to change the party. I thought Starmer just ran on that. Now you're running on that. It's it's not great. It's really not great. And also Andy Burnham too. I mean, we're going to be seeing, I'm pretty sure the NATO summit is, I think, start of August. We're going to see Andy Burnham there with the world leaders. I said this last week. I mean, it's laughable in my opinion, but I guess some people seem to like him. That's the future. The future of the country for the moment is Andy Burnham until he calls a general election, which could be the latest in 2029. Think about that. Oh my goodness. 3 years of Andy Burnham. Not great, but it is what it is, right? We'll see what happens. All I will say on that is Andy Burnham is seen to be a lot more left-wing than Starmer. So maybe it'll move in the direction of more left-wing politics. But that's just only going to, anger the other side. So we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens.